Welcome to the Austin Forum Upload, where we explore pervasive and emerging technologies and their influence and impact on society.
In this series, we upload direct to you information, opinions, and insights from thought leaders, experts, and creatives from Austin and beyond.
They'll share their perspectives through conversations, interviews, debates, discussion, and more.
I'm Jay.
I'm John.
And I'm Huli, and we co-produce the upload for the Austin Forum on Technology and Society. Today we have with us Ashley Stroud Phillips, Managing Director of Impact Hub Austin. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. I'm excited to be able to talk to our listeners about Impact Hub because it's like nothing I've seen before. I mean, we talk about accelerators all the time. We talk about incubators. We talk about co-working spaces. But Impact Hub is really in a space by itself. Talk to me about what that means to you.
Sure. So Impact Hub is a physical and social infrastructure for social good and social enterprise in the world. And so we are a community of over 100 units all over the world.
Wow.
Over the world, 50 countries, 6 continents, and it's people that are coming together to collaborate and to scale their not just their tech businesses, but also their companies that enhance the world around them. So we are focused on making sure that the resources that we have as individuals and as companies are also used to enhance the world around us.
Well, that's in short supply right now. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful to hear that Impact Hub is doing that work. As the Forum for Technology and Society,
Totally.
we're obviously interested in that collision, right? That place where those two worlds intersect. And I think Impact Hub is tapping into that in a really fascinating way. And I know community is a big part of how you've structured your business. Talk to me about why community is important.
Sure. And when you say community, what I hear and what we understand at Impact Hub is that thing that's created when people are in relationship with one another.
Yes.
And are working together and have built something that is reciprocal. We are a group of people that's based on reciprocity and lots of ways. When people come in, we say, what do you want to get from this community? What do you want to give this community? We believe and are guided by 3 values all across the world and all the Impact Hubs. The first one is trust. We trust each other to do what we say we're going to do. The second one is courage. We have the courage to do the hard things, to ask the hard questions, to be wrong and to fail. And in collaboration, trust, courage, and collaboration. Because if we want to look at and address these arguably intractable problems, we cannot do that by ourselves. We have to collaborate with lots of others. So those are the 3 things, and all 3 of those values are inherently built in relationship with people. So they don't come out of nowhere, and they aren't built overnight. So we structure our physical places to try and create serendipity so that impact and transformation can happen.
So I think one of the things that we all can agree on is that there's still a gap between innovation and this human inventiveness and this natural curiosity and the outcomes that do good for others and take care of other human beings. And there are so many good people doing this work, but the opportunity for that serendipity, for that way for innovation to change quality of life, that happens with trust and cooperation. And so all of that makes sense. So before we started recording today, we were chit-chatting and talking about things in the world like the Thai boys, the soccer team that was trapped in the cave, and all of the different ways that people were trying to help them. And you had a really interesting observation about that.
Yeah, well, my observation, my thought is a lot of people might know that when there are all these different ideas being thrown out there and trying to figure out how do we rescue these boys, Elon Musk was a part of that and was prototyping a submarine, and then there was a little bit of fallout between some of the divers and the managers and Elon Musk, and it was this, for me, it was this moment of like that really showed kind of what happens in tech in the world right now. There's this idea of there's all these applications for technology onto real issues, and there's typically there can be some resistance, or there can be some back and forth about it that seems to be lacking in trust, or we don't need that. Thanks again for your technology, but it's actually not going to work here with our quote clients or with our customers, the people in need. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like there's this layer of trust and humanity that has not really been talked about a lot with this kind of tech revolution. And I was reading an article, and I grasped this last quote of the article, and I literally have it on one of my notepad my electronic sticky pads on my desktop, and it says, quote, if Silicon Valley, insert tech, insert Austin, insert whatever you want, but if Silicon Valley wants to help the world, there is a lot it can do, starting with making its own products safer and its own companies more just. But perhaps the most important thing it can do is develop respect for hard-earned expertise in areas other than its own. And I think that just spoke to this need all across the board for people's experiences and perspectives and understandings and the things that they know to be honored and to be given a place at the table, if it's not tech related. There is a lot of energy around this technological revolution, smart cities, and I'm so glad, because I believe in the wielding of that for good. It's a neutral party. Technology is a neutral entity, and it's how we use it. And I just think that in lots of ways, access to this kind of new toy of technology and its rapid progression has not been democratized to a lot of people. So I have a relationship with tech that is a lot different than somebody else's, and so I don't have maybe as much skepticism about it, or I can play around with it and know what I'm risking or not. But I do think there's also just it has a time and place for it, and I think that the community at large would really benefit from just understanding that it's not the savior of the world, and it can be applied in so many great ways, and it actually could do a lot of good. But it might take some relationship building before that happens.
And trust.
And
collaboration.
And courage, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I'm thinking about that philosophy, and I'm thinking about the work that Impact Hub has been doing in its accelerators and incubators seem to be a dime a dozen these days,
yeah.
Right? But that doesn't mean that everybody knows what they are. So if you were an emerging entrepreneur and you were looking for a place to grow your business and take it to the next level, how would you tell someone to evaluate an accelerator versus an incubator, and how they know they're ready for one or the other?
Oh my gosh, that is a good question. So from a very just kind of basic vocabulary understanding, accelerators typically are shorter and time constraints, and 3 to 4 months. And they are banking on this idea of a limited amount of time with a bunch of resources pumped into them to exactly what it says, accelerate what's already working. And incubators are growing something. They're smaller. Usually they're longer amounts of time. Austin Technology Incubator, sometimes their cohorts go on for 1 or 2 years. And it's some of those verticals are different. They're looking at different, biomedical things and stuff like that. So incubators typically are longer, accelerators are shorter. And so in that vein, if you're an early stage company, it would make sense that you would probably look to find an incubator. But I think that those words are used interchangeably, and so
interesting
in lots of ways. And what I think accelerator ultimately means is, do you want to do more quicker? Do you want to do more quicker in your early stage? Do you want to do more quicker in your mid stage? And so I think what would be helpful for a new emerging entrepreneur is find out accelerators in town. They each kind of have a niche, and find out which one kind of speaks to you, because it's not necessarily about the curriculum. You can find curriculum on LeanStack. You can find ideas and the Lean Canvas and go to different classrooms and curriculum, and you can find a lot of that. It's about who do you want to do of course, with what's the community, what's the follow-on, if you need funding, if you want, if it's the mentorship, what is it that you're valuing and that you really need? And then match that to the program that you're looking for, if that makes sense. I would say that it's less about, the worksheets, not the worksheets, but it's less about the sage on the stage giving you information, and it's more about what kind of access to relationships and community and people are you going to get, and how are you going to be supported through the process.
And we're going back to those core values again, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at the accelerators that Impact Hub has launched, you're getting ready to start your third, which
yes.
is very exciting.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to be just tangentially involved in the first one, which was about affordable housing, which is a problem certainly across the country, but it's one we're sensitive to.
Sure.
Here in Austin, Texas, with more than 100 new people moving here every day and not 100 houses being built every day. We've gone from kind of this sleepy town to the 11th largest city in the world in record time, and that's caused some tensions. And so your social good outlook and the idea of an accelerator and pouring resources into these nonprofits, these companies, these startups that are interested in solving that problem. What did you learn from the first cohort? You had all kinds of different sorts of startups, from a data collection group to a group that was manufacturing 3D homes, concretizing, which was a verb I had never heard before.
Concretizing, yes. That's great.
So what'd you learn?
A lot. I learned that I learned that even when people are focused on the same issue, the values that they have, that they look at that issue through are different. And what and that there is a lot. I did know this, but I learned it even more, that there's a lot of these are emotional issues. Honestly, and when you think about business, these businesses that are talking about housing ultimately in people's lives, like people don't come at them very lightly, and so there is a lot of passion. Social entrepreneurs and enterprise people, there's always a lot of passion, which is great. And then and I think what was interesting about it is there was definitely the same kind of intersection of people who have been boots on the ground in kind of the affordability space for their whole professional career, and then people who have backed into this space because of the moment in time, maybe an expertise that they have, something that they became interested in, and there was this colliding of communities again, which kind of got me thinking about how we create trusting relationships. So even though we might not come at this issue with the exact same value set, we still believe in the outcome and we can work together. Yes,
we have the same target.
We have the same target. And here's the thing, the pie is really big around housing and affordability. Like the more people, the merrier, the more solutions, the better. There is not going to be a silver bullet in it. So I think I learned that people come at it differently, but when you get them all in a room together and you talk about the outcomes and the desires and why you're there and your why, your own personal why, that people come together around it. I learned that, governments are strapped for bandwidth and they're really excited. Isn't that crazy? Did you know that? That they are excited to have the nonprofit and private sector support it.
Right. Potential partners.
A potential partner. And another thing that was interesting is we learned when you put an accelerator around an issue-specific accelerator that is sector agnostic and industry agnostic, what you find is the partnerships actually flourish within the space. You would think that, there's probably embedded competition if you're all looking to solve the same issue. But honestly, it didn't happen that way at all. It's like, your data is actually going to make my product better, so let's partner together. That understanding, you have a manufacturing facility. Can I talk to your manufacturing guy? Because you know what?
About building my tiny house.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're going to work together over here. Your API data is actually going to help, and people were willing to share and to partner together because it actually was better for their companies and their ventures and initiatives as well. So that was really amazing, and that held true for the second accelerator as well.
Yeah, talk to me about that one. The second cohort was focused on workforce development, which is a key priority in Austin. We just had an article come out in the Austin Business Journal saying we've got 36,000 jobless people, we've got 42,000 job openings, but the people seeking the jobs don't necessarily at this point in time have the skills that the employers are seeking. And so what can we do as a community to fill that skills gap? And how can we be better matchmakers? How can we be producing more skilled workers and up-training people? And how can we be supporting employers so they can grow their businesses? So as this cohort, they're getting ready to leave the nest as we're recording this. What are your biggest opportunities as you look at this?
So, thank you. It's such a fascinating. I haven't read that article, so that's so interesting that we have more job openings than we have jobless people. You're like, seems like that's such a great fit. Let's make it happen. And I realize the skills gap is a real thing, and I believe it, and I'm not arguing with it. I also think possibly it's not the whole thing. Possibly there is a skills gap, but there also is a lack of proximity for these employers and these people who need jobs.
We've certainly heard that, yes.
And maybe it's just about an inefficiency in our building bridges in our communities as well. And so I think it's probably a little bit of both. One of the things that is true, and we know, the onset of automation and the disruption of the workforce going forward. We always talk about the future of work, but let's talk about the future of the workforce. We are going to have a whole ton of people where it is going to be more important that they can adapt than it is the skills that they actually have. And so, how are we creating a more adaptable workforce that has like individual agency and competency for their own trajectory as an employee for themselves or as a part of a bigger company? So I think some of the opportunities is about kind of creating efficiency in an inefficient system, and what that looks like. There was a team in the cohort that came out of the Austin Center for Design, and they went through this 10-month kind of design prototyping program. They came into the Workforce Development Accelerator with a version of a digital platform targeting opportunity youth or adults who haven't got a 4-year degree, saying, hey, guess what? In order for you to thrive in Austin, you don't have to get a 4-year degree. And in fact, there are opportunities other than that. And so what they found were the obstacles was that, one, people got overwhelmed if you wanted to Google something.
Sure. 2,
they didn't know what the options out there were for their own kind of personal development. And 3, resources for those things. And so the company, the venture is called KeyUp, that has actually created an online platform for the digital native to say, here's 6 questions, what are you interested in? Oh, here's about 5 opportunities in this area in Austin that are looking for jobs. Here's what they make. Here's a little bit about what they do. Oh, you're interested in that? Here are places that train for this. Oh, you want to talk to this place? Let's get you on a FaceTime right now. Oh, you need resources for tuition? Here are some places that give you resources, all in kind of like
in one place. And it sounds as though you're giving them the opportunity to skip a step that so many millennials are wrestling with, which is student loan debt.
Yeah.
That this particular company is saying here you can get from point A to point B, with point B being a middle class lifestyle, without incurring tens of thousands of dollars in debt.
Exactly.
Because we can help you make these connections.
And it's not as to say these skills and training programs are completely free. Actually, some of them are. Not all of them are, but they are much more affordable and accessible than a 4-year university, and with financial tools and vehicles that are more accessible to a lower income or socioeconomic community as well. So what's really cool is this idea that you can. I'm still paying off student loans. I mean, I came from a relatively privileged background, and so this is a real thing. The amount of people that still are straddled with student debt. I would not say I'm straddled with it, but it's still on the budget. You know what I mean? It's still a monthly thing. So that's real. And if you can give people an opportunity to live in this world without that, that's a huge opportunity.
Well, it's about options. And choices.
That's right.
And giving people the room and the space
Yep.
to make those choices. Well, so then in Austin, we're really wrestling with two things, right? We've got this housing shortage on one side and this talent, I'll put shortage in quotation marks, because there's so many causes, but we've got those two things coming up. So you're going into cohort 3. You've already attacked affordable housing.
Done.
You've
solved.
Check. But you produce some great company. I mean, one of the startups was going to be presenting at the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
It's pretty amazing. So then the second group, workforce development, there's some very cool stuff happening there, and they haven't even graduated. So what are you tackling next? What's Impact Hub Austin looking at next?
So this harkens back to a bit of my, before Impact Hub, I was with a local nonprofit called Leadership Austin. And
graduated from that program.
Oh, best class
ever. Class of 15.
Class of 2015. So, and I knew Huli from those days, but one of the things that I kind of brought from me there was this posture around these intractable issues, which was committed to them for a bit of time instead of kind of being flash in the pan. So what we've decided to do was there was so much momentum created around these two cohorts, is to run the same issues again for the next year for the next two cohorts. So we're doing affordability again. We actually pivoted a bit because we learned, and it was just totally kind of doubled down on this idea that affordability is not just housing. It's so many other things, and we're not widening the aperture hugely, but we're saying, look, especially in Austin, you have to have some intersection of transit too.
Right.
And so we want to open up this conversation where when we're talking about affordability, we're talking about housing, transit,
plus
and that
transportation.
and that intersection, because those are the two largest expenses for most Austin families. And so if we can talk about those in a bucket together and how they intersect, then we're actually going to be making more transformation, because you can go to Buda and find a quote affordable housing, but then add in your transportation costs to get to 787.
And wear and tear on your vehicle.
And I mean, it actually becomes unaffordable again. You put those two things together.
It's a wash.
It's a wash. Or even you're in a worse spot. So the fall of 2018 is affordability. Spring of 2019 will be workforce again. And that's as much as I have right now.
Oh, that's pretty ambitious.
Thank you. We're going for it. And what's really cool is these alumni cohorts now, they're a part of the momentum, and they are wanting to kind of support and mentor or be even kind of be in support of these next cohorts. So it's kind of making this like really virtuous and generative community. It's really fun.
So we've talked about why you would want to come to Impact Hub as an entrepreneur, as a startup, as an emerging company. If you're more established in your career and you say, I'm working at $1 billion worth company, I'm not going to be starting a startup, but these kids, I really believe in them. How would you go about being a mentor for some of these programs?
Oh, I'd love that. Well, you would go.
Do you want to give out your cell number?
You would go exactly. You could let me know you want to be a mentor. I was actually having a conversation earlier today talking about there are kind of the mentors on this accelerator circuit that are doing it and that are great and that love it. But then there's also people that are like really hungry to be
of service.
Yeah. And maybe haven't been asked 50 times already and might have a little bit more bandwidth to do it. And we haven't tapped that talent and that mentorship yet. So if you would like to consider, you can go to impacthubaustin.com. There is a tab for accelerators and events, and there's a mentor form in there if you're interested in mentoring.
And you could do that in Barcelona, and you could do that.
Yeah. We are connected to the entire international network of Impact Hubs. So I could connect you to any of those. It is unclear. Most of them have some kind of accelerator program, and some of them don't. Some of them are focused on just kind of supportive kind of business services for small business and startups. Some of them focus on kind of community activism and stuff like that. But what's great is that each Impact Hub gets to respond to the community that they're in and then grow from there.
Well, I wanted to wrap up with one last question, because I'm thinking about some of the folks that we've interviewed for this podcast, and they're like, I was born with the protractor, and I was engineering my way out of my crib when I was 18 months old.
That is not me.
And not everybody takes that path, but there's still a place for them in tech. So there's this book called The Fuzzy and the Techie that I got.
My gosh, I need to read it. No,
yes,
but that sounds amazing.
I'll lend you my copy.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. But I wanted to check in with you and say, so, when you were in high school, I'm sure you weren't thinking, I'm going to be running a social good technology incubator. And so how did you get here?
So thank you. So I have a bit of a kind of STEM background. My father's an engineer. I was always really good at math. Not that that's a thing that you have to be, but then I went to grad school and had my degree in world religion and communication. So, that's very tech-centric. And so I think a lot of it, I found my way into it because the whole world has found their way into it. It's not, you can't ignore it anymore. And I think the idea is I kind of backed into it. I came from this more kind of nonprofit executive management and development and community organizing around issues of equity and social justice. And I was like, what? Well, the whole world is utilizing tech, and Austin has this huge like kind of economic boom. We have human capital, we have financial capital, we have this tech ecosystem. Why don't we leverage that for social good? Why don't we leverage that for all of the community here in Austin? And it just seemed to make sense. This is the new way the world works, and it's a neutral tool, and I'm going to use it in the way that feels good to my soul and that I believe is necessary. So that's how I got into tech, because you can't not be in tech and be relevant.
Isn't that the truth? It sure feels that way, doesn't it?
It does, and I say that a little bit with an asterisk. You can be relevant, and tons of people are not in tech and relevant. But my thought is that I want us to make sure that as tech becomes not just an industry in of its own, but it crosses every industry.
It does.
That we are being able to utilize it for what we want, for the service of people and planet, business and profit in the service of people and planet, not the other way around. Because we're here to enjoy life and change the world, and to have businesses and passions and come up with really cool things, and not and be in the service of us. Business in the service of us, not the other way around.
Yeah, tech is a multi-tool.
That's right. That's right.
Use it for everything.
Yeah.
That is a great point, Ashley, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of the flip side of that, right? Because every entrepreneur is facing this tension. I want to do something good and meaningful, and I also want to pay back my student loans. I want to make money. I want to be prosperous. How do we thread that needle?
Right. So that's a really good question. I think we're grappling with that. And when I say we, I would say this generation, where you find this corporations being asked to have a more of an impact metric for themselves. What Blackstone CEO said: if you're not doing this on my portfolio companies, then get out of here. And then, on the flip side, philanthropy is people are asking it to operate with more stronger business concept to be more sustainable. So there's this movement from these two poles towards the middle. And I think what you're realizing is that people are really interested at the intersection of money and meaning. I think money is a reward. It is not a motivator. It is a sustainability metric for what you're doing in the world. It is a way to show success. It gives you something, but it is not the be all end all. Money is the way we can continue to living and enjoying. So I think but we can also, we're not going to be able to do that if we don't also think about kind of implications and outcomes of our business structure. So there's actually a couple things I'll plug here when I think about the merging of money and meaning. One is called the third term sheet, or the World Positive Term Sheet. And I don't know if it's just conceptual, or I think that some venture funds even ask for it. And the idea is that they want to know what your core values are, what your stance on diversity, equity, and inclusion is, how are you building diverse management teams, and sharing platform and power to people that have historically not been given equity building opportunities. And then the third one is sustainability. How will your business tread lightly on the planet? So this idea of there is a different way to build a business. It doesn't even have to solve a problem. Just do no harm and do something.
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil. Have some ethics. Build a great business. Make a lot of money. Enjoy your life. But you don't have to do that be evil, or whatever that means. I am not saying that you can't make a lot of money. Money is not the problem. It's wanting that at the without caring about all the other pieces. So World Positive Term Sheet. And then the other thing is, and a lot of people will probably know this, is the rise of the B Corp. So for, I don't even know when that was, 6-10 years ago, but typically you're incorporated, you have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize that bottom line, and you're actually legally responsible and could be sued if you did anything other than do that. So our legal systems were set up for you not to care about anything but the financial bottom line. So in fact, whether this actually happened or not, you weren't not incentivized, and it was against the law for you to chase something other if you were an incorporated company. So this idea that we can have two bottom lines, we can care about our impact in the world, we can care about money. And guess what? They can live in one body, they can live in one company, and they don't have to be fighting each other.
Well, thank you so much for spending the time to talk with us today and to share the story of Impact Hub with our listeners, because I think it is so unique. It's so very Austin, but it's also very much of our time right now. This idea of leveraging tech as a tool to change the world for the better. And I'm excited to know somebody who's right there in the thick of it. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate being here, and I appreciate the city and that it lets people try crazy things and supports that. So happy to be here, happy to be talking to you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Austin Forum Upload. You can listen to additional episodes and check out a schedule of our monthly in-person events at austinforum.org. The Upload is a production of the Austin Forum on Technology and Society, a nonprofit organization here in Austin, Texas.